with the music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gift. Join the music and Michelle, Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music of music.
We are the muses behind the music, and thank you so much for joining us this evening, tonight, today, wherever it is, whatever time that you are viewing this. This is a dynamic woman in the arts, and I'm excited to have her on and to speak a little bit intimately about all that she is doing, because she is crazy busy. And I always want to know from people when I see them on these platforms and just moving and shaking and trying to manage everything. I want to know, how do you find balance? Because for real, I am still trying to attempt that word, and there might be a secret that people have that I can apply to my life and make it just a little bit easier. So for those of you who do not know, I am having the Dr. Chelsey Green from The Green Project joining us tonight. Hello to my dear friend Gary Vincent, who is joining us, my HU brother and friend, who is another dynamic and phenomenal artist. But come a little bit, let me talk to you about Chelsey here. A few performance highlights for her included the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards, performing with Lizzo, Songs in the Key of Life tour that happened in DC with Stevie Wonder, the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival, a graduate of Berkeley, a graduate of UMD, has her doctorate from the University of Maryland, was just doing commencement, the commencement speaking for her alma mater, which is UMD. I think that is just absolutely phenomenal. She's a violist and a violinist. She is a creative. She is an educator. She is now doing her teaching over at Berkeley School of Music. There are just so many great things that's happening while she was getting her doctorate, y'all. Get this, that as she was being hooded, she was also simultaneously on an international tour through the Middle East, Haiti, Japan, and other countries with her own jazz and R&B ensemble, as you all know, called Chelsey Green and The Green Project. I like that name. It's simple, but it's hip, and like you can't forget it. And I think that's the beauty of it. Now, as I told you, the associate professor at Berkeley in Boston, she's performed on the stage with so many just phenomenal artist, and also has been featured in a Walmart commercial. Can you send me that link? Because I don't think I've seen that as yet. But this was a BET Networks produced commercial. Y'all, I mean, we're just going to have a sister conversation, and hopefully you all will make your comments to ask this dynamic, phenomenal woman of God, woman in the arts, Dr. Chelsey Green. Hey, sis.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Listen, my good sister, I'm glad that I am having you. You know, it's been, with your schedule, it has been just crazy. Like, people will say, Michelle, your schedule's been, no. You, good sister, are out here and you're doing some great things. I was not kidding when I talked about the word balance, because that's not necessarily an easy feat to do. But before we get into that, I want you to tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? How did the music and the passion for music, where did it start?
That is a great place to start. I mean, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and I am from a family of musicians and music lovers of all styles, all genres. My grandmother and my mother very much loved classical music, and wanted there to be a violinist in the family. So when I popped out among all of the funk and soul and jazz and blues musicians that we have in our family, my mom really wanted me to be encouraged with the violin. They didn't force me to do anything. I will say that up front, but my mom always loved strings. So when I was very young, I started taking violin lessons at 4 from a violinist in the Houston Ballet Orchestra. And she became like a second mother because it was much deeper than violin for her. She wanted to fall in love with music. So I was grateful for that.
That's really kind of dope. What's interesting is that most people would not, because I've talked to the string queens and,
yes.
And most people wouldn't necessarily say that their parents were influencing them in the string field, because I'm always hearing piano or voice.
Okay.
And then later on in life. So I love that there was an appreciation for another instrument, and that you still, although it was, kind of, hey, let's check this out. It was still you who had decided. What became the turn for you? At what particular juncture in life did you say, this is it?
Wow. That's a big one. I think I still ask myself that question every day. Like,
right.
Here we are with a new challenge with this instrument. But I will say a turning point for me, for sure, was in high school when I started playing viola. It was in my senior year of high school that I was just adamant about making the Texas All-State Orchestra. It was like a huge deal for string players in Houston and just the Texas region in general. It's a very competitive group. And I had auditioned for 3 years on violin, and could not get into this very coveted group. So I said, I'm going to learn how to play the viola. And the guy at the violin shop was like, you're crazy. Are you serious? Like, this is a totally different instrument. The music is different. It's a different clef. You're going to have to read different. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it. And I was eating, sleeping, breathing, everything viola for a while, and just completely fell in love with the instrument and said, this is it. I ended up making the orchestra that year. I ended up making third chair in the orchestra that year. And I got a scholarship to continue it in college. And that was the professional turning point for me.
Yeah. So undergraduate school was where?
At UT, at University of Texas.
Okay.
In Austin. And that was rough. It was rough because a lot of people go to college playing an instrument that they've been very comfortable with for a long time. Yeah. I had just picked up viola in my senior year of high school. So I was learning how to play the instrument literally in college. And it was very hard.
Fierce competition there?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes. It's a very competitive music program there. And
I'm not trying to slight UT. Okay, y'all don't. Anybody who went, I'm not trying to do that. I just honestly don't know. So
right.
Yeah.
Texas, the music programs, at colleges in Texas, depending on where you are, are very nuanced. I think that's the best way to say it, because when you think about Texas band programs, anything about Texas football, right? It's a totally different thing, but realizing that the College of Fine Arts houses those programs gives you that kind of insight into what kind of money is being poured into those, scholarship opportunities. So therefore it is really competitive.
You got that right, because in music education, I mean, that's the state with a very competitive and diverse program for music ed. And so, yeah, if I had just used my thought process, but that's why I have you here to ask the question.
No, it's true, because their music ed department is just as rigorous. Absolutely. And they have a very expansive ethnomusicology area too.
Really?
Yeah, which was, to me in Austin, it's a good place to kind of spread the wings on what ethnomusicology is and what it's defined as. So it's been great to see them growing that program to include a lot more cultural resources.
That's dope. So you come out, you go and do your master's.
I do.
And all of this, I love it. So here I am, and a lot of people, the students ask me all the time, hey, Miss Fallon, I'm interested in going into music performance.
Right.
Do I really need a degree? Back in the day, the answer would have been different.
Okay.
Today, and let's have a conversation about this. Challenge me, those who are listening. Today, I say to folks, no, depending on who they are, because what do you do with a music performance degree? You're going to go and perform. A lot of it is the connection. Some people really need the college atmosphere to keep them on track. They don't have that natural drive and propensity to do this thing, or to want to say, let me invest out of my pocket if they actually have jobs and the money I'm going to go get the coaches, and I'm going to go get the teacher, and I'm going to learn this stuff. They don't have all of that. So going to school is good. I don't know. What do you tell students who say to you, Dr. Green,
right,
do I get a degree in what does a performance degree really do for me? How am I going to use it?
Oh, I love this question so much. This is something that, I talk to my students about all the time. I think that's one of my favorite parts of being an educator is sharing space with them on what it means. Because you say one of my favorite words, invest.
Yeah.
Right? What it means to make the investment in their future. And I tell them all the time, social media has made them feel like things are so much more tangible than they are. And college affords options. College affords a network of people that you will have grown and matured with. And I'm not even talking about their professors. I'm talking about their own colleagues and classmates.
Absolutely.
Are going to be a lot of who they're in this industry with and operating with. And I tell them all the time, I was like, there's going to be something that you learn every day that you're going to look back on in 20 years and say, I remember when that was just a question on a test, and now it's life. Life.
And now it's like, it's funny because, I have a 21 and a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And I say things to them all the time. And I guess my parents used to feel the same way. It's like, okay, y'all just ain't listening. But what will happen is you're going to remember that when you have to do the life experience of it, that all these things that people are sharing with you and trying to impart into you, that sometimes even when you're studying for it, it's not going to hit until you actually have to touch on it yourself.
Absolutely. And they're young. I'm like, y'all are young. You want to take 4 years of your youth and enjoy, being exposed to new experiences, being challenged on things that are beyond your, breadth of knowledge and experience at this moment. Learn new software. Learn how to build this. Learn new techniques on your instrument. Learn new scales. Learn new genres of music. I said, because life is gonna life for the rest of it. You'll have life on the other side for the rest of your life. So just take 4 years
and take your time to do it. I'll tell you that the pandemic, in speaking with a lot of my students, this was the opportunity for them to be able to do all those fabulous things that you just mentioned. Yeah. And I'm glad that so many of them took the advantage of doing, figuring out new skills. Like some of these kids were building, fire pits in their backyard, or they were learning how to sew, or they learned how to play the guitar, or they learned how to play the piano. But they were doing things that were very constructive and motivational for them that they wouldn't have had the time before. So I have appreciated hearing that. And I know so many of us as artists, we went through those lulls. How did the pandemic for you affect you in ways that benefited you? What did you do during that time? Was it live and still kicking for you? Because some musicians, praise the Lord, were still able to do what they always did.
Right. Right. You know, wow, it's layered for me because I think at the initial shutdown, I was just so overwhelmed with many different emotions. Like, never in my life did I think we would live through a pandemic. Like, what? That's not something that you kind of, just think of. And I was thinking about it was the redefinition of illness for me because yes, people were getting sick with this disease that was unknown at the time when no one knew how to treat it, no one knew how to avoid getting it. But also it revealed so much about the sicknesses within the mentality of our culture, of our society, right? And that had a domino effect on how it went, how things happened, and you started seeing those literal iterations of greed. You started seeing those literal iterations of just what emotional health means and why it is so vital to our health overall. Like it's much bigger, than a treatment of one physical disease. It's like, how are we treating our minds? How are we treating our heart? And how are we treating our soul to allow us to be the best human possible? And I think that was it for me. It was like, now we're all on an even playing field. We're all home.
That's the truth, the even playing field, right?
We're all home. We're all relying on our internet connection to stay connected. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? Who are you without what you do?
Mercy. That's deep. And I promise you, I'm going to take that question and I'm about to think about that question, in my meditation moments, like, who am I without
what I do? And I am so abundantly grateful that I became part of a prayer group that we still to this week are, meeting every week to pray as sisters. I became part of a book club that kept our mind going off of, we're all different types of professionals, but we were all able to come together with an unrelated, topic and talk and fellowship. And I think those moments of connection made me re-identify gratefulness.
Wow. You did this recording. I want to play it for everyone. Those of you who have never experienced the artistry of Chelsey. And this is actually a solo recording that she did with the song We Shall Overcome. I want to play it and then we can talk a little bit about it. When I was listening to that the first time, and I know that you are a singer, what I automatically thought about was, is she singing the words that she's playing? I felt like you were. And even when you did that slight improv, I was just like, it hit my soul.
Wow.
It hit my soul because it was just so I don't know what word you were on in your mind in there, but it had hit me. What inspired you to do that recording?
So that moment was shortly after the George Floyd situation happened. And when I look at it now, you know, I think about all of what I can't breathe means.
Yeah.
Now, you know, just how that translates to the pandemic and our hospitals being, you know, overwrought with people. And just what it means for people to feel like they don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me want to sing through my violin. And I'm grateful that the language in my house was always violin is a musical instrument, not a classical instrument. And very early, it was my dad walking me through Mahalia Jackson, like runs on the violin. Like, when you get up and play this at church, I want you to do it just like this. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
You know, so it was like, no, don't skirt over that. Like, I want you to do that too. And I'm grateful that that is kind of how I feel like I try to approach the violin in general, because I truly feel like it doesn't matter what apparatus you're on. I feel like you have to communicate something through that instrument.
Absolutely. You know, I had a great experience when I was doing my grad studies at Howard, and Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Wow.
who is, well, if you've never heard him play the violin, you need to he is a true virtuoso. And he came and spoke specifically to the string major students and the voice majors. And he brought the voice majors in because he wanted to talk about the relationship that the stringed instrument, specifically the violin and the voice, had cohesively with one another, and how we as singers need to hear that while we are singing, and the violinist needs to hear the singer, because it's, you know, or whatever stringed instrument, even a cellist needs to be able to hear the bass, you know, or the baritone voice or the mezzo soprano, so that we have the relationship that we are singing a song. It was one of the most dynamic experiences that I had. And I appreciate that. So you go off, you branch though, and you have this group. And so obviously the influences of what Dad was like, hey, you're bringing this gospel up onto your viola, had allowed you to think about creating this green project. First of all, where did the name come from, sis? Like, how did you like get there?
You know, I wanted to name it a project because it was an experiment for me. It was something that I didn't want to be stagnant. Like, it was something I wanted to be something that I always felt the freedom to play with. And I wanted to keep that at the front of my mind whenever I was making choices, musically, artistically, you know, administratively, just however I wanted to envision it. I didn't want to try to box myself in. I was at a place where I was in grad school. And finally, after leaving Texas and then going to Peabody, that's what brought me to the DMV area, was Peabody. My teacher at Peabody blew my mind. He's still a very big mentor for me now, but he, you know, almost walked out of a lesson one day and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, you're in here reading from a book. He was like, if you want to practice, you need to go to the practice room and I can leave. But if you want to learn how to be an artist, then you need to have what you're looking at be in your heart. I was like, oh,
music. Oh, okay.
Oh, I see what's happening now. So he always encouraged me, you know, he always wanted me to do my best classically, but he knew I was doing other things. And so I ventured out to an open mic in Baltimore one night, and you know, I had just gotten stood up for a date. So I was feeling some type of way.
Girl, that's the best kind of singing you could do.
I was feeling some type of way. Like, he is not, had my makeup on. I was dressed. I was like, I'm not finna go home and be sad on my couch.
No.
So, you know, I got up there because I was coming home from a gig. So I had my viola with me, and the DJ saw me And he was like, okay, I see baby girl at the bar with a saxophone. I'm like,
sir.
I'm like, who has a saxophone? And the bartender was like, girl, that's you. I was like, oh, me. So he dropped a beat. He dropped an instrumental of Kanye West, Flashing Lights. And I just improvised like for a good 3 minutes. And the club owner,
crazy. They were going crazy.
I was just going. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play. And the club owner asked me to come to sit in with the band that weekend. And that was the first moment of like thinking I could do something with that.
Yo. And then getting the musicians. Now, because we are women in this industry. And I don't know, I'm assuming, all of us go through those biases, those, prejudice that, men don't even recognize some of them that they give off towards us. Did you have a challenge finding people? I'm not saying that you were going specifically for men, but I know that your band is comprised of that. Did you have a challenge finding people who were down for the cause, who got the vision, they understood the assignment, and they were wanting to be a part of it?
We need to have a whole nother thing just about that, because being a band leader, wow, it's just a lot. And it's something that I didn't know. I didn't have a vision yet. Like, it was just so brand new to me.
Yeah.
I was just incredibly grateful. Well, I am incredibly grateful for how God has divinely placed people in my path with intention, like, because I could have not done it. Like, there was nothing that I did. That night at the open mic, a woman overheard my conversation with the club owner. And he was like, do you have your own band? I want you to feature with the house band, and then I want you to come and do a night yourself. And I was like, she got up from her table and was like, yes, she does. She has a band. She'll see you Tuesday, and I didn't know who she was at the time, anything. She took me to the side and was like, I am a very good friend of Drew Hill's music director.
Stop it.
He was like, they just got home from tour on Sunday and they don't have anything to do. They're gonna be your band. I was like, what?
Yo.
It was crazy. The whole six-piece group was in there. I was like, this is blowing my mind. So
yeah. So this is a dynamic artist right here, Greg, and he was just making that comment in there, and I just find that to be awesome. I know the band has always, every time I've heard your group, on fire. And that I know just helps to also boost what you're doing. There's nothing better than when you have some musicians that are tight and right and are supporting you, and then everybody on the platform can elevate the music to the next spaces. I mean, you are, girl, what a blessing. God is always intentional.
So intentional.
Always intentional with that. So now, do you operate your own thing? Is this self-produced? Girl, oh yes, come on, be the inspiration, because that's not an easy job. I'll tell you something. Years ago, my former husband had said, you got to get on out there. He was really the one that had taught me about the hustle, the true hustle, and he's a jazz musician as well. So about getting out and doing your thing. You can't wait for people to do it for you. And in 2022, we expect things to be different. But I was also one who didn't want to give up my coins. Sorry.
But that's also a part of the conversation. Like I completely get it.
It's real. And there were people who, I wanted to make sure as well that if you're with me, it's because you have bought into my vision, my calling. And that it almost literally becomes yours. Like it's a part of it, so that when you're doing it, you're not really working. You're you know what I mean? It's a part of just being it's yours. You know, it's
Right.
fun. You honor it. You respect it. The hustle is real
Mhm.
because you believe in this thing. Do you ever think
Uh-oh.
what? What? Do you ever think about
Uh-oh.
not doing like giving it over, letting somebody? I mean, because you're doing such a phenomenal job without.
Wait. Let me be super transparent.
Yeah.
It has been part of my prayer for more than a year to have help.
Oh,
I'm not even gonna I'm not gonna hold you. Like, I have been like, God, I am grateful that I can stay up until 4 a.m. and make sure everybody's flight is booked and everybody has a room, reserved, and we have
right.
transportation ready and the writer is sent, and but it is so many
Right.
pieces to manage by myself. It
Yeah.
is it can be a lot, especially when the school year is going
Sure.
and I'm managing all of my classes and all of my students. So it is a lot to juggle, and I am so grateful for what's possible now. I feel like with help and with assistance, it could be a different story too.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we can talk offline on
Okay.
that. Got some good people
Okay.
that would absolutely love to, like, and if it's right, it's right, because it's all about connection. Just like, having a teacher, we got to be able to mesh well in order for
Woo.
things to work, right? So
Right.
you are an educator in college. What
Yeah.
are you seeing really come in? What kind of future? And Lord, for any of your students who are watching, I'm sorry. I just want us to be transparent, though.
No, I mean, absolutely. And I tell them all the time, I am very grateful to have so many types of diverse classes on my
Mhm.
roster. I teach a class that really talks about the real world of the industry.
Yes.
And it's absolutely one of my favorite courses because I present them with experiences I have lived through, just like real deal experiences. And, it's so revelatory to see their exposure with social media and with what they're already doing. At a school like Berkeley, you're dealing with kids that have a lot of them have experiences professionally
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
I have, one of my students, not this past semester, but in the fall, was like a viral violin sensation on the internet. And it was very candid conversations about like ownership of music,
Yeah.
development of content, balancing her studies at school with like managing that and endorsement deals. And, it was a lot of conversation about career management, right? And so I see them as being eager in a different way because I feel like they're looking at different options in the industry than I was. I can only speak for myself. But when I was in college, it was audition for an orchestra and sit down and get your check. Like that,
That's it. That's it. No, I was literally in this conversation the other day with a really good friend of mine about, it looks so different. We were taught you need to go to school and then you need to set up all of these auditions. Same thing here. These kids, I'm at a loss for real, even though I'm living in it, but I'm so far away from what they're doing now. Like you can just stay at home and chew food really well and be paid. Like what is going on? Like, and this is a career. This is what some people do, or people who are
it's
gamers
true. It's
making
really
millions
real.
of dollars. So it's almost like, well, what are we now telling artists? Because I'm so glad you talk about the career, because I want you to give us an example of something that you went through and experienced that taught you an incredible life lesson that now
Wow.
that you can impart to other people, other artists, just people in general who might experience this particular thing in, being a doctor, a lawyer.
Right. And that's one of the things that I always preach about too, is that we're all artists. Everybody that wakes up in the morning and has a plan to their day and ends up changing those plans, you just improvised. Because
that's the reality, right?
You know, that's the reality. We're all, you know, working on our personal improv, whatever it looks like for our life. So I think what the beautiful thing about, you know, when you say something that is, you know, people are being paid to chew, which is so real. That's so real. And then people are being paid to, you know, be the finest soloist, you know, at the proms. You know, it's up, it's here and there, but it's making, again, people be humanized. Yeah. What are you behind what you do? Like, what else is there? Yeah, we know you can sing. We know you can play. Who's the person behind what's your story? Yeah. How are you engaging audiences? Because really every single audience is a group of students. We're all learning about you and what you do, and we're getting information to inspire us from you. So it is a point where they have to develop their story to help inform their art. And that's it. You know, that's why we need to still encourage these kids to look to their ancestors. Yeah. And learn that history. I tell them all the time, today we're going to pretend like we're looking at Charlie Parker's Instagram and we're going to talk about what he would have been posting. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. You know, what does that look like? Because we want to get into their lives and dig into those stories to help them cultivate a conversation. So what's your story? What are you telling people? Because there is a very specific niche that you have on this thing right now. What are you giving to the audiences? My prayer is that I encourage trying. Mm. You know, I struggle with the word excellence because there's such a pressure with what that can be. You know, you have to be this, you have to excel at this, you have to do better than, you have to make sure you're showing up better than. And sometimes for emotional wellness, excellence is showing up. Absolutely. And it's so relative. Excellence really is a relative word. It's very relative. And so, you know, to try to, I hope that from my walk, you know, it's not something that I necessarily articulate on stage, but I just want people to know that they have space to be different. Yeah. Like, you have space to have your own idea and try it. Try it at any age. Try it. If you want something to change, you have to change it. Yeah. You know, and I think as I'm getting older and seeing my parents age and, you know, grandparents passing away, it hits different when you're maturing and seeing dreams not realized. Mm. Like, why was there resistance to change because of a circumstance? And I think that's something that I'm so challenged with, because the younger generation don't feel like that. Yeah. They see it and they gonna get it by any means. Like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, and, you know, and I just feel like our elders have so much life to live yet, and it's possible. You know? Yeah, you know, I think I'm as well seeing so much of this younger generation get caught up into the myth of what they see too. Yes, you know, there's so many of them who they take the plunge, they take that challenge. It's really a self-driven challenge that they have. But with social media, they are so easy to accept everything that they see as reality. And they don't realize that people are choosing. I choose what I want you to see. I choose the image that I develop for you to walk away. We're all doing that. And so there's room in there for the flaws that you'll never get to see, and all of actually the blessings too that some of you might never get to see. How are you addressing to these young artists who are trying to, and I don't care what area it is, but they're so
mesmerized
Right.
by social media and the access of social media
Mhm.
that sometimes maybe I feel like the work ethic gets pushed to the side.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I think that speaks much to our conversation around why I still feel like school is so, useful and
Yeah.
helpful, because it's going to challenge you. That's the part.
Yeah.
I feel like they're able to avoid it, because when you can pick who you follow, you don't have to be challenged by your views and opinions and feelings, because you can just unfollow, you can mute, you can hide, you can swipe somebody away that
Yeah.
doesn't agree with your line of thought, instead of being challenged intellectually
Yes.
to not only understand but to communicate through what those challenges presented your own thinking.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. I really encourage them, especially if I'm managing them in a private lesson a situation. I ask them, what type of music do they listen to?
Yeah.
I may give them one song from that genre all semester. Otherwise, I'm going to ask them to step out of their comfort zone and dig into some other repertoire.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
let's
important.
get your ears on something else. And, and when you play it, keep the playlist going to see what else comes after it. Dig
Right.
into that too.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, we got to mix it up a little bit.
Mix
And
it up.
I can speak, as a public school educator, that
Mhm.
it also allows me to stay very current
Yes.
to what my students are doing, because they're required from me as well. You have one thing that I give you, but you're going to give to me something that you want to enjoy. And it's this learn
Agree.
situation, teachable
I agree.
moment situation. So you gave your commencement, a commencement speech. I love that. I love that, where you completely floored that they picked up the phone and was like, hey, we want you to be our commencement speaker this year. This is University of Maryland that I'm referring
This University of Maryland, I am very grateful. I have done 3 commencement speeches. And
Really?
I will say, I am always profoundly honored, because when I think about, a speaker, I think about who's listening.
Yeah.
Who is the audience, and for me, it's just so touching for me to see people graduate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a moment
Yeah.
to celebrate, to be inspired by, to be encouraged by, and the first thing I thought about was, what am I going to say to their family?
Mm.
Right? Because I know that I would not be here today as the artist I am, as the educator I am, without a supportive family,
Yeah.
much past school, much past the commencement, because this industry, you're auditioning always.
Every single time. Even when you think you're not auditioning, you're auditioning.
You're auditioning when you email somebody.
Absolutely.
You're auditioning when you're having a phone call and on the stage. It's so, I think for me, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to really pour into the families, but also the students, about just the reality, but the blessing that being an artist is.
Yeah. So what are the plans? Like, what do you want to do? Not even musically, but 10 years from now. Like,
Oh my God.
what do you see? Where do you see Dr. Chelsey Green?
That is something I'm gonna have to journal about. Oh my goodness. I pray that I'm just still performing, making music.
Yeah.
I just want to keep creating, keep collaborating, and keep making music in all the different iterations that can manifest. So I just want to keep going.
Doing dynamics, sis. Like, you are like rocking this thing, doing it self-produced. I mean, it's an inspiration to me. It's an inspiration, I believe, to so many young artists who are coming up. They need to hear these stories. They need to hear the difficulties They need to hear about the blessings that come. They need to see this is the manifestation, what you're doing, of the hard work, and the excellence and just the time and finding balance. I asked you that at the top of the show. How do you do this? I mean, it's a juggling act, literally at times it seems. But is there something that you go to for your own personal inspiration, for your time of respite? How do you manage?
I have to give that to prayer.
Yeah.
That's my only thing that I try to be as consistent as possible with, because I want the line of communication to be open with God, who I call my business partner.
Yeah. Come on,
right? He is my divine business partner. And I want to make sure that the line of communication is open, not only for me to speak, but for me to be able to hear as clearly as I can. Because like I was saying, I need his help. I need his hand and his guidance with every step, because ultimately it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about, us and what we're doing. It's about that 4-year-old girl who just catches a glimpse of Michelle Fallon on stage at the Kennedy Center, and it's like, mommy, that's me. That's what I want to do. And for her to grow up and see no challenges with that, because she's gonna have that etched in her mind. That's the job.
Yeah. That it can be, I've spoken about that many times before.
Yeah.
But to be able to know that it's possible, like when that little boy first met Obama, the little right, like now it's possible. Like
right.
I see this man, but it is possible, and he looks like me, and that's one of the things that's so important. What did you share? One thing that you shared with the graduating class of 2022 that you will leave with all of us to take, the challenge?
One of my favorite parts of that speech was, when I just said earlier about us all being improvisers. I said that, the Grammy goes to that young man playing 3 sets 3 days a week in the A-Train subway station after working 8 hours at an unpaid internship, just so he can, spread his wings and share his voice.
Yeah.
I said that Oscar goes to the young Black man that lives to drive away from an unmerited traffic stop because he fit the profile.
Yeah. Right?
All of what you have to act in and be in creatively, just intellectually, in certain moments in your life, that's what's going to challenge you and fuel your art to do more. Because more than just us releasing albums and stuff, we are contributing to society.
That's it. I tell these young people all the time, my belief is that we as artists, when God has given us the gift of music, like it's a major gift, and we have a responsibility to speak to things. Things that are moving in here. Like, we can't just make the CDs. We can't just make we can't do that. It's not like a whole album has to be geared towards it, but we do need to be hands-on, giving into the community so that we know how to give back, and that the future generations are going to do the very same thing. Outside of that, Chelsey, what's a pet peeve of yours? What is it that drives you crazy?
A pet peeve? Oh my goodness. I don't know. Like, in what type of situation?
It doesn't even matter. Anything. Anything. It could be the simplest. It could be the most intellectual,
Well, this one, my friends always give me a hard time for this one. So I'll say this. I do not eat finger foods with my fingers. I just I cannot eat
So you
chips.
don't eat pizza?
I don't know. No, I eat chips with a fork. I eat popcorn with a spoon. I just do not like touching food. I just can't. I can't think about putting it in my body and after touching it.
Is that OCD? Is that a or a anal? Is that just what is that?
So I will say it started when I would have to take a quick lunch break in between like orchestra sets.
Yeah.
And we would have to and maybe I wouldn't be able to go to the restroom to wash my hands. So I would just take a fork and eat my chips. Now that's the only way I will eat chips is with a fork.
Everybody who's listening and watching, please do not follow this. Chelsey, fried chicken. Do you eat fried chicken?
I do, and you probably would be really annoyed with how
not the knife and fork.
Yep. 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 Now, if I can wash my hands before I go in on some fried chicken, then I'll do that. But I can especially if I haven't washed my hands, it's no way possible.
I'm sorry, that's just hysterical. That really is. That's hysterical. So, inquiring minds want to know. My mind's inquiring. Are you on the market, sis? Because there are lots of single people out here. You know what I'm saying? And I'm doing a shout out for my good sister.
That is so sweet. I am single out here in these.
So y'all brothers, make it right. Come on, step to the game. Make sure you do it right. Intelligent, beautiful sister.
So sweet.
So okay, I gotta put this up because this is cracking me up. You see that?
Yes. Try it. It's so easy.
She will not be able to family functions if she does.
Oh no! I'm just kidding. Just slide the chip right there in between one of those openings of the fork.
Good God, have mercy. Good God. Hey, yo, Chels, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a part of you. Where can we see you next? What's happening? What's on the next for agenda with you all?
Oh, yes, please join me online. My website is chelseysgreen.com, just as my name is spelled here, Chelseys with a Y, green like the color.com. And it's listing our upcoming dates. We are performing next week at several things in recognition of Juneteenth, but as that starts to come up, but we are headlining in Boston at the Boston Music, Art, and Soul Festival.
All right.
And I'm excited to be performing as part of that. And we also are going to be back in the DMV in July at the Lake Arbor Jazz Festival.
Okay. I'm trying to get this all in. So we got headlining in Boston and then the Lake Arbor Jazz Fest, which I will be present right there.
Okay.
That's around the corner. So I will be present for that. I'm so grateful for you being able to be on the show. Again, thank you so very much. My prayers are up with you, for you, in strength and love, that you will continue on this journey, doing what it is that you do to impact the lives of people and make people think a little bit differently about this thing called music. And might it bless people every time they come in contact with you and your ministry, that they are walking out of there feeling revived and ready to take on whatever challenges are coming forth. Because we need this. We need to be healed by the power of music. Healed by the power. And y'all don't know this, but there is a minister, and I mean like minister in a pulpit in a church, that's in Sister Chelsey Green. Don't let that, trust and believe. We pray. I always pray with guests beforehand, and Sister went in. I wasn't even expecting it. I looked up and I said, "Oh, okay." Have mercy. I thank you. And I receive.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I truly, truly appreciate you and everything that you pour into our community doing. Thank you.
I appreciate that. God be praised. And to all of the muses that are out there, thank you once again for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all in the next couple of weeks. Until then, peace and Blessings.